doesn't exist until it cracks apart. Time doesn't exist until it cracks apart. Time doesn't exist until you were pretty at night. Time doesn't exist until you were pretty at night. Slew the white-haired one first. You were pretty at night. Slew the white-haired one first.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of It's Time to Rewind, the podcast trapped in its own time loop right along with the movies we discuss. This season is a serial bomb, and we're looking at Buffy the Vampire Slayer and Angel, and we've moved on to Angel Season 5, Episode 19, Time Bomb. Today we're discussing the 7th loop in the episode, starting at 30 minutes and 15 seconds, with the torture demon getting thrown to the wall, and ending at 31 minutes and 59 seconds, with yet another scream of pain from Illyria. Joining me once again is the host of Deep Blue Sea, the podcast, Jay Cluitt. How are you doing today?
Very well, thank you. Looking around the room wildly, trying to see where I am, what's going on. My coat is going everywhere. David Boreanaz, fantastic at looking around in this chapter.
Yes, it's so... he's just like so manic, just and like jerky. It's like he's
dancing.
Yeah, he's like on fast forward.
I mean, you gotta understand, like, 60 seconds ago, he was somewhere else. And then he ended up being, like, teleporting there, and then teleporting here. Even factoring the time element out of it, it's unprepared teleportation. So he's, like, gonna happen, where could he be in another 16 seconds? He doesn't know it's gonna be a minute and 44 before he's out of here. It's in his brain, things are going all over the place. But I do love that he's just prepared for attacks from every side, because he's teleported here with the demon being thrown against the wall. So who knows where other demons going to bust out from attacking. He's ready. He's prepared. I love it. But yeah, it's very exaggerated, and the long black leather coat doesn't help. But with the flailing, I think it just adds to it.
Yeah, I think it is just a nice little visual. Just the furnace with the fire behind it in the background, and we have Gunn just laying there, not because he's still because he's still like in he has the amulet on, so he still doesn't have the memories. Like he still has stuck in his Family Guy torture scenario memories.
Yeah, he's going through his own time loop essentially. Kind of. That's a depressing time loop to be stuck in. I guess that's the torture. That's the point.
Yeah, for a brief moment I considered doing that episode as well, as because it is kind of like a single time loop in a series of time loops. But I thought that this one was a better fit, and I know we touched upon it a little bit last episode, but I still like to call it it's not like a circular time loop. Like a Groundhog Day, where Illyria keeps repeating the exact same moment in time over and over again. It, like you said, it is a bit more random, but the fact that we do see the exact same scenarios 2 to 3 times each time, it's like there's, I think, 3 or 4 different scenes that we see at least 2 times, and I think there's one that we see 3 times. I think even 4 times, because I think we see like the training area with the gun 3 times, because we see like a brief clip at the beginning that's like the first one, and then we see the one where Illyria kills everybody, and then we see that loop at the end. We see it in the next loop, and then we see it at the end. So that's 4 times in that scene. And this is where we get Illyria's explanation for what's going on, and it's the one that I use to explain it, because I like this description of it, that she says, "You got caught up in my wake."
Yeah, swept from my wake. So that's another aquatic metaphor she's using. That is kind of where they end. That was I can't remember if Illyria was like God King of the Ocean or something, and everything was going to be like nautical themed, but no, that's it. We go from that to she then moves on to sewing terms, like ripped and tore and stitched and unweaved.
I was thinking a little bit like My mind goes to Linkin Park lyrics, or
Yeah.
they tore my timeline into pieces. This is my last resort.
That's not Linkin Park. That's
That's of
oh god.
Slipknot.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's
Oh, I'm
Linkin
a
Park.
bad metal
Papa Roach,
fan.
Papa Roach, Papa Roach,
Papa
Papa
Roach,
Roach.
yes.
Not that before I typed it. No, yeah.
Yeah, I am, a metal and alt fan, but I get the bands mixed up because I always listen to them on the radio. So I'm never like, oh, this is that band. A lot of them blur together.
Yes. I know like one song by a lot of different bands. That's the one Papa Roach one I know. But I know it's not Linkin Park because that's the one I know most of their songs.
Yeah. But yeah, that entire line is, you ripped me out of linear progression, tore my timeline into pieces, and stitched it back together out of sequence. Which I do think that is kind of a perfect description of this episode as a whole, too.
Yeah, I think so. And it's quite a quick description. I think first time I was watching this, I didn't quite pick up on exactly what she was meaning. That's probably I have my dinner at the same time or something. So this is why I prefer the original time loop, because that's easier to grasp as to what's going on. It's like, oh, it's the same thing again and again and again, okay, and again. Yep, I get it now. But this is we're back here, and now we're there,
and it's tough too because none of the characters really know exactly what's happening until towards the end, and so they're like throwing out these theories that are incorrect because Illyria thinks that Angel in the group is doing something to her. Like she asks, how did you worms accomplish this? Like, is it your science?
Yes, but then in this one you have Angel thinks she's doing something to him, and the last two as well. So yeah, they're all. I don't think it's ever really is explained fully at some point. It's Wesley did something and it went wrong.
Well, I think it is Wesley's explanation because I think in the next clip, Illyria goes into a bit more what's going on. It's just that Illyria's power is too great for Fred's body, and because Illyria, as a god, she has these time control powers, and so she's like basically overloading, and these powers are acting of their own accord, more or less.
It makes me think of the Once More with Feeling episode where the reasoning behind it all is less fun than what's actually happening. Like at the end of that one where Xander puts down and goes, I just thought it'd be fun. It's like a sing-song demon. It's like, oh, we'll forget about that and we'll just go back to the song show and have some fun with that. So this is, it's jumping around in time. There's excitement there. It's interesting. There's things happening all over the place. Why? I don't know. Doesn't really matter.
We get the excuse to let Illyria kill the entire team and have it not count.
Yeah, of course. When she kills that first time when I watched it and she killed Spike, my heart dropped. Then when she killed everyone else, I was like, okay, this isn't gonna stick. It's fine then. But you don't kill Spike; he's the best. Yes, he's died before, at least twice over the course of his existence. Okay.
And yeah, he died as a human. He died at the end of season 7, and he died.
He came back
here.
Yeah.
And another. I have two more of actually three more lines of Illyria that I wrote down because I talked about it in the previous episode. I just love her dialogue. It's just so there's so much muchness to it that she says, "You cage me in this fractured time frame in moments that repeat themselves over and over without deviation, but I don't see these words." And that's like it's just such a unique way for her to explain that things are different this time.
Yeah, her dialogue is so much fun. You're right. She's so quotable. Like you're the muck at our feet.
You were the muck at our feet. Yeah, we called you the ooze that eats itself. You were pretty at night. You sparkled and you stank.
You still stink.
Yes, and it's worth noting that, as she mentions, that they sparkled, and this came out a year before Twilight.
Yeah, pre-Twilight, yeah.
and that's a year before the book Twilight, even. Which
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
surprised at how short a time frame was between the book Twilight being released and the movie Twilight. It was only like 3 years.
Yeah, speaking of things that stink. Uh, but I do like some of Angel's comebacks when he's like had enough of her and he goes on about her speechifying. And they start
Yes.
repeating each other.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like Angel is a lot of the audience at this point. Whenever he's just like, "Would you just shut up?"
You dare speak to me? Yes, I dare.
And maybe this is not the time for when we were muck stories.
Yeah, that's a great thing.
Yeah. I love. I think it's funny because Angel, as a series in general, is always considered like the more mature version of Buffy, but at the same time, I feel like Angel as a series, and especially season 5, Angel gets to lighten up and make fun of himself, and I think that's the part of Angel that works the best is him realizing that he's a caricature and leaning into it and making fun of it a little bit.
Yeah, I agree that it's the kind of more mature one up until this season maybe, where there is still some maturity, but also more just kind of fun things as play around with what we got here.
Yeah, and I think just bringing Spike in general is really the catalyst for bringing, like, Spike brings the fun. He brings a good character that takes the air out of the seriousness and does it in a way that's believable.
And that just the fact that there was the whole Buffy Angel relationship and then the Buffy Spike relationship. You essentially have two of Buffy's ex-boyfriends bickering for a lot of this season, which that's always a fun dynamic.
Yeah, and it's so weird. The episode after this is the one with the Immortal that is just like 100% a slapstick, just comedy caper episode, which is so weird that they decided to do that so close to the finale.
Yeah, but I feel like they knew it was going to end. They had this fun idea for an episode. Figured if not now, when?
Yeah,
That's the great thing about season 5. It's the if not now, when season. Like, well, we want to do this stuff. What do we do? Let's do it now. Let's go.
one exactly. One other thing that I like about this clip is earlier on, whenever Illyria starts narrating the things that she did the previous time around, she's like,
I ripped off the necklace. We talked for a while. Then he attacked again.
yeah. It's weird because generally, like, whenever Illyria is in control of her time powers, it's like her consciousness follows her. But with this and her not being in control of these time jumps, it does feel a little bit like her consciousness is jumping in time as well. So like she's not fully experiencing the different time jumps in a more linear fashion. It's like whenever she jumps in time, her consciousness jumps back to that period of time as well, to where she has like bits and pieces of knowing the experience that she's jumping, but she's more in this moment than like someone like a Phil Connors who has a perfect memory of the previous loop that he was in, and he realizes that he's like, it's not one long string of loops. It's like, do you get what I'm saying?
I do. Yeah, I feel like her consciousness takes a little moment to ripple into being each time. So when she appears in this time, she's not immediately following the exact same track she was last around. She has to kind of collect herself and realize, okay, I'm here, and then she's back in it. So in the previous loop, which is only there for 16 seconds, that never really clicks into being. She just kind of drops there, looking around, but you're here too, and then she's gone again. So I think it takes a little while.
Yeah, and then she ends on, her self-aggrandizing, her saying, "I am Illyria, god king of the primordium, shaper of things."
Shaper of things. So such a vague, like, are you pottery? Or But like, that's such a vague term, shaper of things. What is her full power set?
Yeah, I was
King.
curious about that because that I feel like that implies that she has some level of like creationism, like she played a part in creating the universe or creating things around her.
Views. Yeah. So yeah, did she like evolution incarnate? Like guides the beings into their next form or something? It's vague. I don't know. But God King of the Primordium, Shaper of Things. It's an impressive title. I'll
Yeah.
give her that. It sounds like she should be worshipped of some kind.
Yeah, always before it just seemed like she was just kind of this force of nature, like leadership role where she just had all this power and she just ruled over the everything that was beneath her, which from her point of view was everything.
Yeah. So in the Buffy and Angel verse, I do find myself drawn more to the more unusual characters, the ones who are like close to human but not quite. So you've got Anya, and you've got Oz. Is it Oz or Oz?
Oz.
Oz. Yeah, he was like for the handful of episodes he's around. He's not enough. He's not in Buffy enough at all. But he was the best. I loved Oz so much.
Yeah,
Like
and it's disappointing because I'm listening to another podcast that's hosted by my next guest called The Watcher's Diaries, and they're currently I think on season 4, or I think they may have just finished season 4, but I'm listening to season 3, and that's right in the heart of Oz. Like I just listened to the episode where they. Where Willow and Xander have their kissing moment, and everybody breaks up.
Right. Yeah, but speaking of like nice characters I talked about earlier in these loops, Oz is just like the nicest, chillest guy who happens to be a werewolf. Yes, fine, but he's like a nice, chill guy.
And it's kind of disappointing. Like as much as important as the Tara relationship is later in the season, Oz is like that relationship would have continued through the end of the season, except Seth Green wanted to leave the show and do other things.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing.
Yeah, I can appreciate it. I wish he'd stayed there more. But so I kind of cling to his character, and Spike has been like this almost human, but not quite. Illyria is maybe too far away from being human. At the moment, at least, when like later in the series, she sort of loses her powers a bit, I think.
I mean, this is an episode where her powers get reined back. Like she no longer is able to like do the time control thing. That like she just basically becomes a more standard demon that has the super strength, and that's about it.
Yeah, and like characters like Lorne, who are essentially human in every possible way, apart from they look like a demon. He's just a very, very human character he's green, and his head can be removed. So those are characters that I like the most. Like, you're not human, but you're close. And yeah, they're at this point too far the other direction. So I do like that they do rein her back. They make her, because she becomes part of the team, essentially, and you can't have somebody who's overpowered part of the team. It makes it no fun. It's the Scarlet Witch of it all.
Yeah, Scarlet Witch, Superman,
Exactly.
all of those types of characters.
Yeah, that's why Superman sucks as a superhero.
But that's the end of my notes for this episode. Do you have anything else for this loop?
Just another highlight for Amy Acker's performance when she's goes into herself and tries to like piece together what she did last time. She becomes very bird-like. The angular motions of the head, the bobbing of it.
I do love that. I think Ian, my first guest, he referred to it either that or possibly Rob, who was my last guest, mentions that she tilts her head kind of like a dog. It's almost like a dog like.
Yeah, I can see that, and there are so many close-ups in this loop of just not blinking. I know I mentioned it before, but it looks so painful. Those eyes look huge. The contact lenses look awful. Not in terms of quality, just in terms of having to wear them. She's just not. Just blink, please. Your eyes look so dry.
Yeah,
That's all I have.
they're just a big unnatural blue. But yeah, so that's all I have. So once again, I'd like to thank you so much for joining me today, and I will give you another opportunity to plug something else that people can find you and your other work online.
Okay, so I used to host the Lambcast, the official podcast of the Large Association of Movie Blogs, which is how Barbara and I met through the Lamb. But I retired from that a few years ago at this point. But I still host Lampity, which is our movie trivia. Our movie trivia version of Jeopardy. It's all movie trivia, so I host that on a monthly basis with 3 Lamb members competing for movie trivia. It's a fun time. It's it's a good show. If you like movie trivia, then come listen to Lampity on the Lambcast.
Yeah, I just watched Celebrity Jeopardy came back to finish their run, because for some reason it's like they aired several episodes back in, I think, October and November, and then they took a break and now they came back, and Michael Cera was on there, and I think Celebrity Jeopardy is a fun one to watch because it gives you a sense of superiority because the questions seem a lot easier than typical Jeopardy questions.
How does it compare to our Celebrity Lampity that we did years and years ago?
It's well, this one was, I think, on par because they were the other 2 actresses I was not familiar with, but they were fun. So there was a lot more fun moments too that you don't normally get, and then the final Jeopardy, one of the contestants had no idea, and she answered, "Who is Michael Cera?" And it was like, who did this magazine name as the person of the century?
Yes, not Michael Cera.
Yeah. So that was fun, and there was a lot of questions where it's like, I knew it and none of the 3 of them knew it. So it's like, yeah.
Well, if any of your listeners want to hear an episode of Lampity with somebody playing the Swedish chef, I would strongly recommend them digging back to the Lambcast archives and finding that.
Yeah, and you can also, at my site, Flights, Tights, and Movie Nights, I have a page where I list all of my guest appearances, and I do list, I think, 2 or 3 appearances on Celebrity Jeopardy as the Swedish chef on that page as well. Might be a little bit easier to find that way.
Probably, yes.
And as always, I am Bubbawheat. You can find me on Twitter where I'm at Bubbawheat. You can find this show, It's Time to Rewind, on Anchor.fm, as well as anywhere else that you listen to podcasts. We also have a Facebook group, It's Time to Rewind, a time loop group, and you can join that to discuss episodes as they come out, or have any sort of discussions about time loop movies, TV episodes, TV series, even Kaleidoscope, which is not a time loop per se, but it does do some interesting things with viewing order, which I have not watched, but it sounds like an interesting and fun show. And until next time, grrr.
Time doesn't exist until it cracks apart. Time doesn't exist until it cracks apart. Time doesn't exist until you were pretty at night. Time doesn't exist until you were pretty at night. You're the white-haired one first. You were pretty at night. You're the white-haired one first.